A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
This episode is sponsored by On Point Framing and Memorabilia. On Point Framing and Memorabilia are the preferred framing partner to Huddersfield Town AFC and the proud supplier of authentic signed town memorabilia. They have a great range of items available on the website opframing.co.uk in the HTFC collection tab. Make sure you check them out. Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance preview show, The Drive-In. As the sleigh bells get louder, we look to Mad Friday, where perhaps a tepid game of football awaits as Huddersfield Town visit the Abbey Stadium at Cambridge for the 20th game of the League One campaign. It's Matt and Killer here to look at if anyone will be receiving gifts as Town cross swords with friend and foe. How are we doing, Killer? We all look good.
Yeah, I'm really good, Matt. Looking forward to a nice romantic weekend with the missus down in Cambridge on Friday. I'm quite lucky enough to get a ticket before they sold out. So Lucy's in for an absolute treat down there, unless we lose. Then that'll be a tough one.
Got your Christmas jumper on and everything, right?
Oh, I'm all for it, me, Matt. Honestly, kids have been today singing in church, Christmas carols. We've had the same rendition, the same songs 3 times in a row from 9 o'clock this morning till 3 p.m. So I am more than ready.
We won the FA Cup and now we're going up. We are the Town. Nice little segue there, mate. Right. Speaking of segues, shall we talk about Cambridge? What do you know about Cambridge, Killer?
Very little.
Right, let me fill you in. Okay, so formed in 1912 as Abbey United, the club played in the amateur and Southern leagues until they won the Southern Premier League in 1970, which led to their election. So similar to Wigan, a rather late comer. Abbey United changed to Cambridge United in 1951 and had their most successful period under a Neil Warnock nemesis in John Beck, who took Cambridge from the 4th Division in 1990 to the 2nd tier playoffs in 1992. That 5th place is the club's highest ever finish to this day. Since then, the club has bobbed around League 1, 2 and the Conference. The club honours include Division 3 champions in 91, 4th Division champions and Conference playoff winners in 2014, when they also won the FA Trophy. The club are imaginatively nicknamed the U's as they're United. They were previously known as the Wasps on account of the black and amber kit. There are 11 players on FB Ref that have played for Huddersfield and Cambridge, who are Daniel Jake Carroll, Carlan Grant, Stephen Jordan, Lee Clark's shoes have never been the same, Elias Kachunga, Chris Maxwell, Ewan Roberts, Robbie Simpson, Jimmy Spencer, Jed Steer, and Elliot Ward. However, from my own memory, I do remember Gary Clayton in the 90s, who we signed from Cambridge, who was quite a decent player towards the back end of his career at the time. Let's read. And I can't back this up with fact. I've Googled it, Killer, to try and see. But I remember seeing a little printout from Shoot or Match, or do you remember the old magazines you used to be able to buy? And it said on that magazine that the lowest transfer fee ever in the UK was for £1, and it was the transfer of Paul Smith from Huddersfield to Cambridge in 1974. But I can't verify that with any with anything that's currently on the internet. But that's so Town, innit? It wouldn't let him go on a free transfer. He has to go for £1. You tight buggers. Amazing. So Yorkshire, so Huddersfield. Brilliant. Head to head, Huddersfield and Cambridge have met only 20 times. The first game in the 3rd tier in 1973, which Town won 2-1. Cambridge have only beaten Huddersfield Town once. That sets alarm bells going immediately, considering Huddersfield have never lost at the Abbey Stadium. That gives me shivers, I'll be honest, Killer. The only defeat was in 1977 at the old Leeds Road, 2-1. Town have beaten Cambridge 11 times with 8 draws, including an awful 0-0 at the Abbey Stadium in 2010 in the FA Cup. The last game between the sides was the FA Cup replay in 2010, which Town won 2-1. And the last league game was in 2004, which Town won 2-1 at the Abbey Stadium, with John Stead scoring that day. Quirky game killer. Not many to remember, but I do remember one. I've got a really good one, I think. So Town, many will remember the Autoglass Trophy that we did. I think it was the 24th of April. I haven't got the notes in front of me. 24th of April, Sunday. Town lost on penalties after extra time, and they asked Cambridge to move the midweek game from Tuesday to Wednesday, and Cambridge refused because they wanted the advantage of Town being knackered for the game. And then a Neil Warnock-inspired rant beforehand inspired Huddersfield Town to an amazing 5-4 win at the Abbey Stadium. It's an incredible bunch of goals. Phil Starbuck scores a couple that are just absolutely brilliant. But the best one is Andy Booth coming in from the left-hand side like he's Kylian Mbappe, and he just cuts in and he whips it into the top corner. It hits the stanchion. It is a ridiculous goal from Boothie. And if we ever interview Boothie, I'm going to talk about that one for about 15 minutes because it's honestly one of the best goals I've ever seen. It's amazing. Anything from you in regards to memories?
I went in 2002. I think that, and if I remember correctly, I think that's the Lou Macari first season, isn't it, in League One or Division 2 at that point after we were relegated, where Leon Knight came in on loan and still to this day is one of my favourite ever strikers for Town. Funnily enough, I thought he was fantastic when he came. And do you remember how gutting it was when he wouldn't come back for the second year on loan? Anyway, and when he got sent off at the end of the season, that really ruined everything. Yeah, personal wise, I might not be the best kind of guy when it comes to his social media happenings since retirement, but we won 1-0 down there. They were next to no one in the stadium.
Clyde score?
No, Leon Knight scored.
Did he? I remember Clyde.
Yeah, Leon Knight.
Clyde Vineyard put it across, didn't he? I think.
He put it across. And then,
I've got Clyde Vineyard on the brain.
I just remember Leon Knight scoring, and from that moment on was always one of my cult heroes. If that's kind of still going on, I'd love to talk to Leon Knight about his time at Town. I know it was only a short period, but he was something else, and it was a nice win down at Cambridge that time round.
Right, because they played together for the England youth teams. So Phil knows him, and Phil asked him if he'd come on the podcast, and he said yes. We just haven't got round to organising it with him, but I think he'd be absolutely wild, wouldn't he? Which would be, it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun. See, if he speaks really fondly about Huddersfield. When I put that compilation together, the Leon Knight goals on YouTube, he messaged the podcast and just said he hadn't seen any of them before, and thanks for putting it together. It was really nice and really polite, and he was just really nice about his time at Huddersfield and stuff. He's quite a nice guy underneath the facade, to be honest, Killer. But I'd love to have him on. Right. Recent form. Tell us about Cambridge and how they're getting on, because if you look at the last 10 games of the form table, it's pretty good. Last 6 tailed off slightly, I think, Killer.
Yeah, they're a very, very strange team. But if you go all the way back to 2005 when they were relegated to the conference, obviously from League 2, and then it took them such a long time to get back up. But Matt, they've had some cracking top goal scorers that might ring a few bells for us. Fola Ronnie Boujé in 2005, 2006, who was with us. Their top goal scorer with 11. Robbie Simpson's been top goal scorer for him twice. Obviously, Paul Mullin was there for 2020, 2021. So there's a few.
FP Ref didn't have that one either, did it?
No, useless. There you go. See, not as good as us, Matt. So people need to come here to listen to it to find out the real information. But since then, they've been a slow trajectory upwards. They've obviously gone through League 2. It took them 7 seasons, I think, to go through League 2. They finished second, and they've been back in League 1 now. This is the 4th season. Every season's been pretty similar, where they've had periods of the season where it's not been great, but then they've got a bit of form put together and kept them safe. And first time around, they finished 14th. 22-23, they struggled a little bit, but managed to avoid relegation and finished 20th. Then last year, obviously, there had a few chop and changes with Neil Harris leaving, and then Gary Monk coming in March, who's obviously the current manager now. Neil Harris was brought in November. I don't know if anyone remembers, and he went to Millwall very, very quickly after joining Cambridge. He was only there for a very short period of time. And now they're a Gary Monk team, which I'm sure will really enjoy getting on. I'll tell you what, League One really is a division, Matt, isn't it, of us facing great either ex-managers or managers that we've had beef with previously. And so far, we've done all right with it, and we just need to hope that continues. But the season's been mental. So out of their first 9 games, Cambridge picked up 1 point. And it looked, for all intents and purposes, that Monk could be on his way. Last year, he actually started in his first 3 games, Matt, and they lost 4-0. They drew 0-0 with somebody, I can't remember who, and they lost 6-0 in the first 3 games. And there was actually a poll on the Cambridge Forum about sacking Gary Monk potentially after 3 games he started so poorly. And this season started in the same way, having lost 8 out of the first 9 and just having 1 point, looking like they were already down. And then all of a sudden, Matt, they've got it together a little bit. And having watched them in the last couple of games, I don't understand how they could have ever lost 9 in a row, 8 out of the first 9, because they look to me like a team that are really, really solid. Their home form's quite good. They've won 3, drawn 3, lost 3. Their away form's obviously pretty weak, but that's not really relevant for us coming into Friday. But they've not lost now for 5 games in the league. In the form table, they are 9th over the last 10 games, Matt. So still looking like a lot tougher an opposition than what we would have expected to be facing if we'd have got them earlier on in the season. Gary Monk has got them playing some really effective, fast and direct football on the counter. And it's going to be a very, very stern test for us this Friday.
Absolutely. Just looking at their recent, they got the last minute equaliser, didn't they, at Wrexham, which is not an easy place to go to and do that as well on Saturday. Lost to Cheltenham in the EFL Trophy, who I'm sure nobody cares about. Beat Shrewsbury 4-1, which is a good battle at the bottom. Lost 3-0 to Reading though, and 2-1 at home to Wigan in the FA Cup, and then a couple of draws before that. So and a 6-1 defeat against Cambridge as well, which I think 6-1 against Peterborough, which smarted somewhat in Cambridge. Speaking of Cambridge, Max Rushton is a fan of Cambridge Killer. No, I don't have him as our guest, unfortunately. He's now living in, and be good, wasn't it? But I listened to him on Not the Top 20 the other day, and he recommended a podcast called Under The Abbey, which is a Cambridge fan podcast, as being absolutely excellent. And I spoke to Jack from Under The Abbey about the game this Friday, and this is our conversation.
Hi Jack, it's been 14 years since the clubs last met. Firstly, how have you been? Fill us in on how the club has done since we last met.
Hi there, Jack from Under the Abbey stand here. A long time since the two teams have played each other, 14 years ago, and it's been a steady incline for Cambridge United since then. We were in the conference and then promoted back to the Football League in 2014, which was great to see. Had a few good years in League Two with interesting managers and players and things like that. Sean Derry being a manager in that time, who won't be too fondly remembered. But things started getting even better when Mark Bonner took temporary charge in the 1920 season, and the season after we were promoted to League One as runners-up. Since then, we've just about survived, including a last day survival in that time, and it looks to be going the same way again this season. It's going to be a tough one, but it's been fantastic to be back in League One, and now we're an established team. We definitely want to stay here.
You were tipped to be a struggler by many this season, but your recent form over the last 10 games sees you in 9th place. How have you now turned a corner, and do you think you're pushing upwards?
I think every season we're tipped to be strugglers in League One. I think with a smaller budget, one of the smaller teams, it's always going to be the way. It was an absolutely woeful start from us, and I think everyone thought the writing was on the wall from very early on. But there's been belief in Gary Monk and the players, and a new group of players that are together and getting used to each other. They seem to have done that now. Certainly been an upturn in form, and it looks more promising. I think it's a big ask for us to keep this up throughout the season and do enough to stay up, but I think they all believe, and we believe, that we can do that. So it's going to be interesting, and I think there's just a bit more belief in those players now that they can compete at this level. A horrible derby defeat aside, we've looked good in all the games that we've played. In the second half of this season so far. So I think there's plenty to be optimistic about.
Okay, Gary Monk is an incredibly unpopular figure in Huddersfield after clashes when he was at Swansea, Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday. How is the old nemesis doing these days?
Yeah, Gary Monk, unpopular figure in a lot of places, it seems. Certainly the jury has been out with Gary Monk. He came in and basically did what he needed to do at the back end of last season and just about keep us up. But there weren't many wins in there. And there's been questions about whether he's the right man for the job, if he's got the mentality. He's overseen a 6-1 loss to our bitter local rivals, Peterborough, which, hasn't made him particularly popular, and also endured the start to the season that we endured. So if we, have another poor run of form, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go, but equally he's turned it around. I think the players are on his side, and if he can kind of keep on this good run of form and get us out of that relegation zone, then in the end he's the right man for the job. So as I say, jury's still out, but Monk's the man at the moment.
Whilst Monk isn't the most popular, we do though absolutely adore Elias Kachunga. It might be a bit of an emotional reunion with him this Friday for us, but how is he doing for Cambridge?
Yeah, we're big fans of Elias Kachunga on this podcast. We sponsor him. So it's always lovely to see him play and lovely to see him score. He's one of those players that you can just see has played at a higher level. Absolutely fantastic player. Really good on the ball. Just that intelligence that you get from playing at a higher level, and someone that we do rely on. Lately, he's not featured as much, and it's been more difficult for him. But that is within a team that are changing, a squad that are changing. So he still has a part to play, and him and Sully Kaikai are two players that bring that experience and an eye for goal as well. So yeah, certainly one who can make a difference for us on Friday.
What do you expect the lineup to be on Friday night, and what sort of style do you now play?
I think we'll line up kind of with a system with 3 at the back and wing backs, I imagine. It kind of looks like a 3-4-3, but can also be like a 5-2-3 as well. It's one of those Football League formations that's ever changing. But yeah, 3 centre backs. I'd be surprised if we didn't go with that. Okadina, Morrison, and Kel Watts. We do have Danny Andrew as well, and Danny Andrew may well sit in there with Bennett and Brophy on the sides. We've got Longello, who was back. We're still not quite sure on his status, but Dan Barton and Josh Stokes are 2 young players to look out for. And Daniel Underlew on loan from Bolton is one who's really taken fans by storm. He's really popular and got that last gasp equaliser away at Wrexham at the weekend. So yeah, that's a popular player. So I think we're a team that play with less possession, and we're used to that. We've got better at absorbing the pressure and doing things on the break, but also managing games a bit better. So I think we'll be play quite tight, and we'll fancy ourselves certainly at home.
Okay, thanks for that. What's your score prediction?
It's going to be a big ask for United to get a result here. Huddersfield are obviously flying high at the other end of the table, looking to get to those automatics. But United do have the belief that we didn't have in the early part of the season, and a bit of momentum going. So I think Gary Monk's will fancy themselves. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think both teams will score, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
And finally, just for those travelling down, where would you recommend to park, and what pubs are the best for the away fans travelling down?
For Huddersfield fans coming on Friday, there's parking on the streets around Newmarket Road, and there's also a park and ride at the top of Newmarket Road, so you can park there and get the bus down to the ground, and it stops right outside there. As far as pubs are concerned, you've got the Corner House on Newmarket Road, which I think is good for away fans. Cambridge United fans are very friendly anyway, so I think most pubs are kind of welcoming to all. It will be busy on Friday, but the Kingston Arms as well is another good one for away fans, and I would say the White Swan on Mill Road, so they'll all be good for you. And you can get a pint at the ground as well.
Killer. So thanks very much to Jack for that from Under the Abbey stand. Killer, it's time. To the tactics board we go, my good man. Right, okay, so it's probably going to pick itself is the town team this weekend, because we've pretty much got no fit players. Potentially, very grateful to Stephen Chicken Digest, because he was at the press conference today, and he sticks out a digest, which is very, very helpful to say who's injured and who's playing, etc. So I didn't have time to listen to it. So thanks to the Boxster for that. And essentially, Kasumu got Kasumu got a dead leg, not a David leg, but he should be okay. Lombike suspended. Boyan's out with the knock. Hodge not yet available. Nichols not yet available. Evans is still out with the toe injury. Actually, I'll tell you what, I've injured my toe before, and it took absolutely ages. I got like a hairline crack, and I think it developed into something called surf toe or something. And it honestly, it lasted like between 6 and 12 months. It was an absolute nightmare, but hopefully he's obviously in better hands than what I was. Balka's not ready yet, but good news that he played another 45 minutes today for the B team, which is fantastic. Hoggy's out till January, February, which is a bit of a blow, if I'm honest. Reece Healy's got no chance of being fit anytime soon, and Mikael Miller is out till about April. So the question is, who is fit? Matty Pearson and Tom Lees have had a illness. Hopefully they should both be okay. If they're not, we are struggling at the back. Cozzy's favourite Loic Kaina might come in from the cold. Who knows? But we're looking at the tactics board. So if you're listening to this, bear with us. We will try and explain things as best as possible. But I think the logical team really here, Killer, is we're going to go with Chapman in goal because Nichols isn't ready. Chapman's now ensconced as our number 2, at least. The 3 at the back, Mikael Helik should play in the middle. The left side will probably go to... In fact, the right-hand side will go to Matty Pearson if he's fit. Big fans of Matty Pearson, aren't we, Killer? Because he's just no nonsense. I like the guy. The left-sided centre-back could be up for debate depending on who plays right wing-back. If Tom Lees is ready, he could come back on the left. Or Brodie Spencer could even get the nod after a good performance against Lincoln. And like you've said before on previous pods, Killer, if a player comes on and plays well and changes the game, then they probably deserve to start the next time round. Right wing-back is going to be interesting because that is where Spencer or Turton will likely play. I think one bad game isn't going to blot Turton's copybook too much, I would imagine, especially if on the left you have Josh Koroma, because then that gives you the sort of attack-minded one on the left and the defensive one on the right who can drop back, and then your defense can kind of slide across. Turton's pretty good at covering, so it might be that it drifts into a 4 at times, and then so if that's why I'm not sure if Brodie would play left centre back, because he could then naturally go into that full back position behind Josh Koroma and offer that pace and protection that Tom Lees couldn't. Not that Tom Lees is a sloth or anything, but you would obviously prefer Brodie to be the one who he's covering because of his skill set. In midfield, I think that, again, this is the only fit midfielders available really at the minute. You've got Kasumu, you've got Kane, and then Ben Wiles with probably Yapenda on the bench ready if any of them have any issues. And then up front, we've not got Bojan, which probably means it'll be Danny Ward and Callum Marshall, with Danny Ward not really doing particularly great against Lincoln either. However, it's essentially him or Freddie Ladapo, isn't it, up front? And I mean, it could be a game for Freddie, could this one potentially? If we're knocking on the door and in and around the box, he's that kind of play that's pretty good at picking up positions in the box. And Callum Marshall's you kind of runner, the one who runs the channels for him. It was good to see Callum Marshall get a goal, so hopefully that's going to be something to help him kick on. We're hopeful that'll hopefully lift his confidence. But I think that's how the team will land. I think the only question really, Killer, is Spencer or Turton, and Spencer could play right wing back, where maybe I'm half expecting him to play, in all honesty. I think on a Friday night, Mad Friday, it's a tired team. I think Duff will probably go Pearson, Helik and Lees just to be solid away from home. And then Spencer to add a little bit of pace, Koroma, and Spencer can drop back in and do that covering well anyway. So I imagine that's how they'll play. And then you've got Turton on the bench who can change things if you need to. And I mean, Josh Ruffles can play left centre back as well, so that's another option if he needs further on in the game. And I think that's a better fit for Josh Ruffles, that left centre back rather than left wing back, because he's kind of, his body's changed a little bit, Josh Ruffles, since he was at Oxford. He's a bigger guy. He's a bit more muscular these days, and I think he's pretty good in the air, pretty good at reading the to be fair to Josh Ruffles. And I think a left-sided centre-back, defensive left-back role is probably more suiting of him now than wing-back like he played at Oxford. So there's options, mate. Not many in midfield and up front.
No, there's very little up front. But to be fair to Marshall, he scored, and I'm a big believer if you're a striker and you come on and score and the game's live at that point, it's not 3-4-0 up and it's kind of like at the end, you deserve to start anyway the week after. So even if more people would have been available, I thought Marshall did enough against Lincoln to earn the start anyway, even if next to nobody else is available. I'm a big fan of Ollie Turton. And going back, I did actually watch the Michael Duff press conference today. My professionalism can never be questioned. And he spoke about us. Very rarely, but this is one of those moments. But we were talking about how when we're playing with Karoma wide left, and if you've got Turton back right, you kind of can swap into a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. He spoke about it specifically. And now that's the first time I've heard Michael Duff speak about this in regards to certain players in certain positions. For me, I'd go with Turton on the right. And like you said, have Brodie Spencer there as a left centre-back. That's exactly how I'd go. Because whilst I love Josh Karoma, and I think he's still the best striker we have, if he does play in that middle too, I think when he's out wide left, and he gets in those one-on-one situations like he did against Lincoln, and he just totally changed the game for us again. What we need Josh Karoma to do is to get the ball, stand his man up, and as soon as he stood up the right back, he's won that battle. In this division, he wins that every single time. He can go around the outside like he did against Lincoln and chip it back in, or he can cut onto his right like he did against Manfield and smash a goal in. We need to get Karoma out there. And I think he's that influential, and we have so few other options, Matt, that we kind of have to build the game plan around that a little bit. And to do that, for me, Turton plays at the right wing-back position, so we've got that ability to switch, and that's what I'd go with. He also spoke, Duff, about how having Ruffles and Turton in that back lineup was like playing with 5 centre-backs, something that we covered before he went and did it, funnily enough.
Should listen to us, shouldn't he?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what he spoke about. So that's not going to happen again. I think we can rule that one out. I think we're just very fortunate here that we do have our first choice 3 midfielders for me available, because going into the Cambridge and into their team and how they play, and I know we're going to do it in a second on this, their weak point is in the middle of the field. They give up possessions and give up battles in the middle. They're really good up top. They're really good at the back. But in the middle, they don't really control anything. And that's suddenly where we are the strongest. And it's really, really important for us that when we're missing striking options, or when we've got very few defenders available to us, like we're going to have this weekend, our midfield being as strong as it can be with those 3 that we know are the best we've got, really, really helps us going into this game. And is the most positive part of it. I'm with you, Matt. I think the team picks itself apart from that right wing-back position.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the braver thing to do is to pick Brodie at left centre-back, but the safe thing to do is to pick Tom Lees. And I have Michael Duff down as pragmatic, if I'm honest. And I know it's not sexy or anything, but it wins points, and so that's why I think he'll go with Tom Lees and then maybe change later on. But I do think Karoma will play left wing back, and it's that area which is dangerous for us, isn't it? Because they've got Bennett playing right wing back over here and Elias Kachunga with him, so they play 2 wide players, which I presume Tom Lees will be focusing on Kachunga, making sure he doesn't wriggle free. But it's then Bennett versus Karoma, and that's where Karoma's going to have to do work that he doesn't want to do, and that's where Cambridge will probably look to attack us. Whereas on the other side, everything's quite solid, isn't it? So Cambridge's team, so they've got in goal, they usually have Vicente Reyes, who's on loan from Norwich. The back 3, so they play with the back 3, and people will remember Michael Morrison, who plays in the middle of the back 3, former Birmingham player, fairly solid. On the left-hand side, they have someone called Kelland Watts, who's a left-footed centre-back, so they've got good balance with that. And then on the other side tends to be Jubril Okadina, who adds a little bit of pace there, and he's been sent off once this season against Bolton, so maybe potentially a little bit erratic there. Midfield is like you mentioned, mate. They've got 2. They usually play with a 2 in midfield, and people will remember one of them because they're not too bad. Jordan Cousins tends to play in midfield, and people may remember him from Charlton, and he came through at Charlton, has been really highly regarded and got a move to QPR. Played a lot of games at QPR and kind of faded away a little bit after he went to Wigan. He's 30 now, but he's got a little bit of experience. It's bad, isn't it? When I can remember him being 17, breaking through and it doesn't seem that long ago. Now he's 30 and coming towards the end. It's mad, is that, mate? But his partner in crime, if you like, in the middle is Corey Smith, another experienced midfielder as well, 33, former Derby player. Was at Derby recently and helped them get promoted. It's almost 200 games at Bristol City. It's quite an experienced midfield pairing, is that. So I imagine they'll be very good at closing gaps and frustrating space, but they might give up the possession because neither's particularly a creative source, if you like. They've both got 1 goal. Neither have got assists this season. And the front 3, I think the front 3 is really interesting. They've got Kachunga on the right who's doing quite well for him this season with 3 goals. We love Kachunga, don't we? He's you know, I went on a Cambridge podcast. I went on Under the Abbey actually for 10 minutes earlier today, and I think I just waffled on about how amazing Kachunga was for us for that length of time, and how much of a spunk trumpet Gary Monk was. But on the left hand side, they've got Shane Lavery. Shane Lavery is a goal scorer. He's got 4 goals this season. Now, people might remember him from Blackpool, where we scored quite a few goals at Blackpool. He came through in a bit of a flurry, didn't he, after he came over from Ireland, where he scored a lot of goals and then kind of tailed off again, as some tend to do. But he's threatening, is Shane Lavery, coming in onto his right foot. And the man who I think is really interesting is a guy that got on loan from Bolton called Dan Alundulu. And he's just a big, strong, strapping target man type striker who can really roll defenders, cause problems. And I don't think Helic will have a very nice day against him. He's only got 4 goals, which is all right, to be fair, for a team that's in the bottom 4 in 13 starts. He's got a couple of assists. I think he's a danger man. He's good age. He's 25. I've looked at his stats and I'm kind of sat there going, I think Bolton might regret sending him out this season, because he's actually been fairly decent. So that front 3 for Cambridge is actually quite good, like you said, be it previously. And the defence, Morrison, Morrison's got so many games under his belt. He's so experienced in the middle of that back 3, and they'll defend deep when they want to as well. He's 36, is Morrison, and he's been there since last year, and he's coming up to 100 games for them as well. He's got 80. He's in the 80s. He's been at Portsmouth, Reading, Birmingham, Charlton, Sheffield Wednesday, Leicester. He's had a good career, and he started at Cambridge as well. So he's I quite like that when they go full circle, and he starts off at a club, they get a good move, and then they go back at the end to sort of give something back. I quite like that. But they're interested. I think they can be got at between Morrison and the other defender. I think that's where potentially we can hurt them in sort of those areas, and it just depends on someone like Kane and Wiles to come in and pick those passes. But I think this is going to be a tough game. I'm starting to see signs of tiredness from Town. Injuries are sort of coming in now. Players are kind of coming up to a period where we're going to be really, really active, and I think there might be occasions where we maybe see out a draw in some games where we don't have much to give in the last 20 minutes because we've got another game in the next 2 or 3 days, and these injuries have really come at a bad time. In terms of luck this season, we've had very little of it, in all honesty, in terms of injuries and some of the recent refereeing decisions and whatnot. But we're dealing with it well. The mentality of the squad has been really good. So if I'm going for a prediction on this one, I think I might go 1-1. For this one, I think it might be a really tough game. It's one where you kind of look at it and in isolation you think, do you know what, we should win this game against a team in the bottom. If you're serious about top 2, it's just with what I saw against Lincoln and Bolton, and there's that sort of like I say, the tiredness creeping in and injuries. You've got 2 defenders who've been out with illness coming next to Helic, who's been out for a long spell himself. Brody and Turton, right wing back, left wing back. Josh Karoma's got those inadequacies in defence. Fantastic going forward. Midfield is probably getting to a stage now where they're a little bit tired. Kasimu's playing with a dead leg. Kane's pretty fresh because he was injured earlier in the season, and Ben Wiles is looking quite good, but he had quite a poor game against Lincoln, I think, by all accounts. And then you're with Danny Ward, who was poor against Lincoln prior to that, and Callum Marshall, who's had a spell out injured as well, and he's just coming back with I think he had some kind of protection on his chest. So you can see it's almost walking wounded, and that's why I'm kind of thinking this is either a 1-goal win or it's a draw. I absolutely do not see us going there and winning 3-0. I mean, we could, but I'd be very surprised if we went there and turned them over with ease. I think they're a team who's on decent enough form. They're quite good at home. So I'm going to play safe and go for a 1-1 and maybe another goal for Callum Marshall potentially.
I think this front 3 that Cambridge play with will be as tough as we face all season. I think they are that good going forward. The midfield are kind of a bend-up break midfield, Matt, where they don't jump in, they don't dive in. What they do is they just drop deep and they say, no, we'll sit deep and you can't pass through us. So if Town don't play quick in transition, which means if when we win possession, we don't get it forward quickly and we try and pass the ball around a little bit, we'll find it next to impossible to break Cambridge down because they are good in defence. They are really good up top. It's just in midfield, they're not great if you play quick through them. I think Herbie Kane is our most important person in this team on Friday. I think it comes down to what kind of balls he can get going forward quickly when possession turns over. But if we do go, Matt, with the Lees, Hellick, Pearson trifecta, and then go man for man, which we've been doing quite a bit with the defensive line, I think we'll get taught a lesson. I really am worried that if that's what we do go with, if Duff does opt for that, we'll struggle a little bit because they are that direct and fast and strong. And Unlundalu is unbelievable. He's a cracking striker. I don't know what you make Mr. Markham's not doing in that. He's got to try and keep him at Bolton, surely, because he looks fantastic. And now I've been on the Cambridge forums before the podcast, sorry. And they're talking about worrying about Ian Evatt getting sacked at Bolton because they might bring him back in. Because having seen in the last couple of games, especially against Wrexham, Matt, he's the exact kind of striker, again, like Lehman at Charlton, that would be perfect for us. The way we play football, we just need some presence like that up top so everyone else can kind of play off him a little bit. We don't have that option, and Cambridge do. And I think, I'm with you, I think Hellick will have a bit of a toughen against him because it's not, Hellick doesn't like those one-on-one battles, does he? With big guys, he struggles with them. He's not, which is quite surprising to say how big Hellick is, but he does seem to have a little bit of a weakness when it comes to that. I think this is a game as tough as a Lincoln game was. And I'd have gone 1-1 as well, Matt, but you can't go 1-1, and your man from Abbey Road podcast go 1-1, and me. So I'll stick my neck out and go 2-1 Town. I will go for a victory on the basis of him starting with my predicted lineup and not the back three of Lees, Pearson, and Hellick. Just because I think we control midfield and we will control possession. I think we'll control it more than usual. And I'll back my boy Ben Wiles to bag one. And I also think Danny Ward will as well. I know he wasn't great against Lincoln, but I think Danny Ward will do the business for us on Friday in a 2-1 win.
Feed the Ward, tuppence a bag. Here we go. Looking around League One, Killer, finally, we've got some interesting fixtures coming up this weekend. So we are on the 14th. No, we're not. We're on the 20th and 21st, aren't we? So Friday night, Cambridge versus Huddersfield, Stockport versus Peterborough. That's interesting that Stockport have got the extra day off as well before Boxing Day. That's slightly disappointing. But that's a good game, Stockport versus Peterborough. Stockport have picked up again. And there's Wycombe versus Bolton. And Bolton, that's a good test for Wycombe, is that? Because Bolton are a good side. I know they're on -1 goal difference and they're a little bit in and out, but I kind of think they might raise the game a little bit because they're going to the top of the league, and we could do with Bolton turning Wycombe over, really, in that one. Stockport, Peterborough really hit and miss. I think Stockport might win that game. Then you got Saturday, you got Bristol Rovers versus Wrexham. Bristol Rovers have just sacked their manager, so you're hoping no such thing anymore, is there, as a new manager bounce? It doesn't really happen anymore. But we're hoping for that mythical bounce. Bristol Rovers versus Wrexham. Lincoln City versus Reading's an interesting one. Both looking to get 6th place. Barnsley versus Orient. You would expect Barnsley to maybe pick up a win there. Blackpool versus Stevenage, and Blackpool are very, very hit and miss, so there's no guarantees in that one. Burton versus Exeter. Mansfield versus Rotherham, which could be a good game actually on the sly, that one. And then Northampton, Charlton, and Wigan and Shrewsbury, and then Birmingham play Crawley Town away on the 23rd. So there's some interesting fixtures coming up. Killer, has anything caught your eye from that?
Just the Wycombe bubble. Is it going to burst? Because if it is, Bolton are a team that could do it. They're obviously very streaky in that they have a few good games and a few awful games, and Everett's under pressure once more. But they taught us a lesson pretty handily, didn't they? Just last week. So, sorry,
just kind of rise again, don't they, Bolton? They're strange, but yeah. So that's it. So we're still taking favourite Christmas songs. Seeing as though you're wearing your Christmas, need to know what your favourite Christmas song is.
I like the Pogues, Matt. I like the Pogues.
Again, the Pogues.
I do, yeah.
Wow, that's a classic. It's a classic. Old lyrics or new lyrics? It's got to be old lyrics, hasn't it?
Oh, Matt, I'm a bit
woke
vegan. I'm a woke vegan, Matt.
You're a woke vegan.
Very careful. Which one I'll go with? I'll go with the politically correct version.
The PC one. That's all good. Right, we've gone on for long enough here. So thank you very much. We'll try do a drive-in before the Stockport game, but with the Christmas period, it might catch up with us. And then the pod will be back either next Sunday or Monday. We've not finalised that yet, so hopefully we'll be able to get a pod out as well covering this game. So thanks for listening as always, and stick with us. And wish you a Merry Christmas if you don't hear from us before.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.